Hello, I'm Molly at Parker Walsh. I'm a licensed insolvency practitioner. So what I want to look at in this video is it's quite an important topic of what happens if your limited company doesn't pay HMRC. So HMRC can be owed VAT, pay as you earn, corporation tax. Those are the usual things that a limited company owes HMRC at some point. So you have to make sure that you're filing your returns as soon as they are due. Make sure you do it by the deadline. And if you don't, it's sort of seen as non-cooperation, and it's not good because you as a director do have a duty to run the company properly, and that involves filing your returns. So make sure that all your paperwork is done, whether or not you hire a bookkeeper or an accountant or you do it yourself, you're still ultimately responsible. So if your accountant files it late or not at all, that is still your responsibility. You have to make sure that your accountant is doing your job, the job for you. So make sure your returns are filed. Now, when the payment is due, you should be making sure that the payment is made. And I appreciate that sometimes it's not because the company might be in financial distress. Maybe you don't have enough money to pay everyone. And HMRC has not been paid because you wanted to pay, say, suppliers or your employees, and you consider these more urgent payments. Unfortunately, HMRC does not see it that way. They see it that you've preferred other creditors, and they have no choice in the matter. It's not as if they agreed that you can pay your employees and leave them behind, or a supplier or a creditor who was connected to you for some reason, a brother, etc. So that can be classed as a preference payment, and you can be held accountable for that as the director. So it's important that you do pay HMRC. If you don't, and you're lulled into a false sense of security, thinking that, oh, they're so big, they're so busy, they've not noticed or they don't mind, that's not actually true. HMRC will take action against the company at some point for their arrears. They won't let you get away with it. It's obviously, as you know, a government body, but it's a huge organisation with strict procedures in place. And they will give you some leniency. And yes, they aren't the quickest. It's not as if you miss one payment and the very next day they take action, but they will eventually. And it's important that you don't take advantage of thinking that they won't come after you, because they will. And they can take action against you by distraining on the company's assets, or they could wind the company up, which is a compulsory liquidation. And both of those result in the company being dealt with the government and stopping trading. You can't trade without the assets, and you can't trade whilst the company's wound up. And even before then, an advert gets placed in the London Gazette, so your bank accounts will be frozen. So it is a nightmare if that happens, and you want to avoid it at all costs, because you can't, even if you were closing down and you thought, well, fair enough, it will go into liquidation, there's so much stuff that you need to do as a director before then. Obviously making sure that the employees know what's happening, making them redundant if you're going down that route, etc. So there's stuff that you need to do. So you can't just let it be wound up by HMRC. You need to put plans in place. I've spoken to many directors who have got in touch, financial distress. They've got arrears built up with HMRC, and they've said, oh, I told them about my situation, and I think they're going to leave me alone for a bit. I think they understand my position. And I've had to say to them, no, that's the calm before the storm. It is not that they liked the story that you told them, and it may be a genuine story, and it may be very heartwarming, and it might be that the individual at HMRC does feel sympathy with you. They won't not chase their liability. They have a job to do, they have procedures to follow, so they will pursue it. It may be in the form of a statutory demand, and then they would get a winding up petition, which sets a hearing date at the courts, and then the judge would decide to wind the company up and put it into compulsory liquidation. And as I've said, before it gets to the hearing, there's an advert in the London Gazette that is advertised, and the banks obviously have machines, as it were, that read the London Gazette, and they will pick up the notice. They will know that there's a hearing coming up, and they will freeze the bank to protect the bank's position. Even if the bank account's in credit, they will freeze it. And you cannot trade without a bank account. How are you going to pay suppliers? How are you going to pay employees? So it's important that you don't miss the payments with HMRC, but if you do, don't prefer other creditors over HMRC. Communicate with HMRC. Do get in contact. Radio silence just propels HMRC quicker into taking action against them. So if you liaise with them, they will appreciate that, but then you might be able to enter into a time to pay arrangement. So you have to pay your arrears, but it will be over time. If HMRC don't agree to that, then get in touch with myself, and we can negotiate on the company's behalf. And it might not be a formal procedure like Company Voluntary Arrangements. We can just do it with HMRC on an informal basis, but we would analyse the company's financial position and see what the company can comfortably afford to HMRC. So it's a reasonable repayment plan that the company is going to stick to. The HMRC like it that you've instructed a professional like myself to help the company. Essentially have more gravitas than the director, because they know that we would be open, fair and honest, and we're going to give a true portrayal of the company. And when we say the company can stick to this, and you should agree to it because it's better than the alternatives, they will take our viewpoint on board, so we can help in that way. And then if it's not, if we can't do a time to pay arrangement, we might do a company voluntary arrangement, which is a formal repayment plan, or it could be administration, repackaging the company in a different way, or liquidation, an orderly wind down of the company. So there's lots of options available to you, but if you're starting to miss one or two payments, or dreading filling in the returns because you know that you're not going to be able to pay it, you need to get in touch with someone like myself, an insolvency practitioner. Okay, I think that's helped. Thank you.